Lion is the undisputed queen of endgame bossing right now, but we just got a new ultra rare battleship. Can pure Götz surpass Lion? That is the question we will answer today. Without considering fleet formations yet, just purely personal performance, GVB is basically UVH 2. She has the same half reload time and basically half main gun damage, which means she fires twice as often as other battleships do. But unlike for UVH, this skill is always active for GVB, so when your fleet is out of ammo, you can just move UVH to the flagship position and she'll do normal damage on normal reload time. But when GVB is out of ammo, she will basically do no main gun damage. GVB offers an 8% fleet damage buff with 2/3 or higher uptime depending on how fast her gun is. Unlike UVH, her barrage when she fires her main guns does not slow the enemy, but fortunately GVB's barrage is super strong, and this barrage fires twice as often as for other battleships. She also happens to have a cross-fleet barrage and a flagship heal that's pretty useless in campaign because it's only in the first 3 battles, and it's near useless in bossing because it's low damage. Damage is where GVB shines. The problem with firing twice as often is that she cannot get timed fleet buffs or freezes like Bismarck's Black Hole on all of her salvos, only on half of her salvos. So I think considering the half-moving boss is a more accurate indicator of her performance in real battles. And in that, she has just a tiny bit less DPS than Lion against light armor bosses, much higher medium DPS, and slightly higher heavy DPS. And these damage numbers are basically 1.5 times of UVH's damage. Not that UVH is relevant in today's endgame meta. So let's say equal on light and equal on heavy with Lion, and higher than Lion in medium. But we have to remember that Lion has a permanent 10% damage bonus against enemies for the whole fleet. And this is not limited to 2/3 uptime like GVB's 8% damage buff is. For new players with purple gear and 0 tech, a 0 limit broken GVB is about as strong as a 2 limit broken New Jersey, so you pay 2 fewer rainbow boolins for the same performance as one of the oldest rainbow battleships in the game, besides Warspite. And I would say that a 0 limit broken GVB is also comparable to a max limit broken and fully retrofitted Maryland or any of the other Big 7's retrofits. When you are able to put rainbow boolins in GVB, which you should, at just 2 limit breaks, she is comparable to max limit broken New Jersey, I guess. Although light and heavy DPS are lower, GVB does have a better fleet buff. So this is one of the very few cases where a new player could use a non-max limit broken rainbow ship. Here's the damage distribution, for example using Mech Gun, which is good against medium and heavy. 39% of her damage against medium is coming from the salvo barrage. And because this salvo barrage is so strong, GVB can use fast guns instead of the high damage guns, for example this 22283. Although using the standard high damage guns is still the best for GVB, it is a smaller difference than you might expect from the fast gold guns or the fast purple guns. So if you don't have enough of these rainbow guns to go around for the whole fleet, you can give GVB a fast gun and give the other BBs these high damage guns. So now we get to the fleet overview. When she's in a triple battleship fleet, half of her salvos don't get timed buffs or debuffs like Bismarck 5's Black Hole, Soyuz slow and damage, and Mecklenburg 5% damage bonus. She also misses either Z52 or Trafalgar and Eldridge, so you can place GVB in the correct position to activate one of these groups. If you put GVB in the top position, then she will always activate Z52's debuff, so 5% damage bonus for the fleet permanently because GVB fires so quickly. Or you can put GVB in the flagship position to activate Trafalgar or Eldridge, and for Trafalgar that would be a permanent 10% evasion rate debuff on the enemy for the whole battle for all of your fleet, while Eldridge has a more limited duration, 5 or 6 seconds on the slow, and GVB can fire every like 8 or 9 seconds, but this is still pretty good. So GVB herself can get the full bonus on either Z52 or Trafalgar, but on the other one in the fleet, she would have the bonus on half of her salvos. There are also other timed buffs or debuffs like Helena and William D. Porter. Now the William D. Porter just applies to the flagship, so if your GVB isn't flag anyways, then it doesn't matter. So because of this loss from timed buffs and debuffs, GVB's personal damage in an actual fleet suffers, but it's still the top or near the top. And as I mentioned before, GVB's fleet damage buff is worse than Lion's full 10% damage buff, but it still remains useful. Putting her personal damage and discounting these timed buffs and debuffs from it, and adding this timed fleet damage buff, GVB is definitely in medium armor bossing fleets due to her very high medium damage. Her on-salvo barrage is leaning towards medium, and that's why. She also has lesser reliance on Raffaello's sap gun, so you can give the sap gun to another BB and give GVB a twin 457 Georgia gun. For light and heavy armor bosses, if you replace Bismarck V, then Mecklenburg will lose a bit less than 5% from the black hole, but still GVB can replace Bismarck V sometimes in light or heavy. In light, she might replace Mecklenburg instead. So now let's look at the endgame tier list, which I have published, so I'm not showing this on the slide. When you open or refresh the tier list, you should be greeted by the updated changelog, and here you can just click the new ships. Currently, GVB is the only new ship I finished, and the other new ships and Hyper Retrofit should be finished like maybe today or Friday by the latest. So because of her main guns doing 45% less damage, adding with the fleet's out of ammo damage bonus of minus 50%, her main gun basically does no damage when the fleet is out of ammo, and she's basically useless in mobbing because of that. So C tier in chapter 14 where there are out of ammo battles, and I put B tier in chapter 16 because 16 has fewer mob battles if your fleet has good enough aviation. For chapter 15 when there's no ammo and ship gun force. Of course, individual maps might have ammo nodes pickup, like chapter 14.4 or 15.4, and in those cases GVB would be fine unless you're going for a 3-star. On the boss fleet, she would have no problem. S tier or A tier, this is comparable to other high tier rainbow battleships who aren't named Raffaello or Musashi. But single way bossing is where she really shines, so SS tier in Hard Arbiter and Meta Showdown like Lion is, and just a bit lower in challenge mode. There are 4 out of 12 months in challenge mode where the boss is medium armor and she would be SS tier, except for Mei, which is Takao, where GVB's faster reload works against her. But in general, for most months, she would be S tier in challenge mode. Damage compared to other gold and rainbow battleships is top 2%, top 5% medium damage. This is just a limitation of the rating scale, 6. She's at the very high end of 6. She's actually top 1 in medium damage, and she's only like 100 DPS off from what I would give a 7 for. Now, is this banner worth pulling on? If you're a new to mid-game player, or indeed any player, you should go all in for your first copy of GVB, and after that, depending on how many cubes you have, you might want to go for the other ships on the banner, or save for Alsace rerun, which is very soon. GVB is certainly worth using or leveling up, because new rainbow battleships are the highest priority to use your rainbow booleans on as a new player, and as I showed, she's even usable as your limit breaks comparable to fully retrofitted Big 7s or 2 limit broken New Jersey. In terms of tech, unfortunately, unlike her sister UVH, she does not give battleship reload, instead it's 2 battleship firepower. And as I explained in the fleet section, she's definitely worth using for medium bosses, and possibly for light and heavy bosses. Definitely not in mob fleets without an ammo, and decent in campaign boss or mob fleets with ammo. Example gear slide I also got rid of, because now everything is on the tier list for every ship. So let's go back to the tier list. GVB is the only battleship in the entire tier list I give these fast guns to as options. And as this says, please don't plus 13 these guns. This is debatable worth. Odin gun can be plus 13 if you don't have the rainbow guns, because when you grow out of the Odin gun, you can upgrade it in the gear lab to this gun to recover your gold plates. As for new players, just use the Twin 410 from tech boxes or its upgrade in Opside Gear Lab. For medium bosses, as I said, this Raffaello sap gun should give to other BBs in the same fleet first, because GVB can use this Georgia gun very effectively still. And we go down further, so new players can use the triple 283mm. from tech boxes as well. Same for heavy, triple 283 is a very good option if you're lacking the gold guns. So in the end, does GVB surpass Lion or even power creep Lion? And the answer is no. But you can use both of them together in bossing fleets. At best, she is equal to Lion in most situations, especially in medium armor bossing, but in other situations, especially campaign, she's worse than Lion.